This meeting is now being recorded.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much. We're going to go over our objectives. So these are the same as we always have in our community of practice calls. We really want this to be the forum that you guys get to connect with each other throughout the state, to learn from each other, gather information from us, share whatever successes you're having or concerns, answer any questions, and then to think about how we can provide technical assistance to you between the times we're actually in your community. Remember that you can also include your community partners in the Go Forward initiative and provide constant messaging to them. And if you would like to have some of your implementation team members on this call, you can. Okay, let's go over the agenda. We're having technical difficulties, you will see. So if we're jumping ahead in slides and then we have to back up, we apologize. We wanted to let you know that we have a couple EI updates today, so we'll be talking about those. Then, of course, we would like to hear the wisdom from Cohort One, all of our wise Cohort One mentors that are on the call today, and then an opportunity to share among your communities. We're going to talk about 45-day timelines a little bit later in the call and then review the upcoming dates for Go Forward activities. Okay, let's all say it. Hooray! Hooray! Community Connections, Blue Peaks, Starpoint, and Colorado Blue Sky have completed their universal training. So we just returned, Lanita and I, from visiting with Starpoint and Blue Sky, and we had a great group of folks that we interacted with, lots of enthusiasm, and we were very happy to be there and talk through the Go For It process in the new form. So we'll hear a little bit more from them, I'm sure, later on in the call. We wanted to let you know that we are being responsive to your request to have alternate ways of providing the universal training or different modules from the universal training for you to use in your communities. So you guys know in Cohort One that we have all the modules up on under the Go For It tab on the website for your use with facilitators notes. Now, we have revised that training quite a lot as we've learned and gotten better and got a lot of feedback from you about what you want more support on and what you don't need as much of. So we're in the process of revising those modules and the facilitators notes, and we will have the new modules with the associated handouts up on the website very soon. But in addition to that, we're in the process of video recording those modules so that you can actually pull out the Global Outcomes module and use it in your community. And it's going to be designed to be used with teams, so probably more than one person will want to be working on it together, because we're going to go through the lecture part and then we're going to actually guide you through the activities. So there'll be a pause where we guide you through the activities. You have an opportunity to talk amongst yourselves and work through the completion of those activities using the case study, just as we did in the face-to-face universal training. Oh, look at that. Hooray. Hooray again. So let's talk about EI updates. The other thing we're working on is a training for family assessment. We're particularly focusing on the SAFER, since that's the most commonly used tool among your communities. We're going to be working with contractors to film the family assessment. We have reached out, if you remember quite a while ago, I asked for volunteers, and actually Heather Zimmerman from Starpoint volunteered to be the facilitator. So we're going to be working with Heather on one of these videotape modules, and we're going to be doing some other scenarios as well. We haven't quite finalized what those are going to be like, but it will be a training that you can actually view a SAFER live, and we'll work through some of the techniques for facilitating a really effective family assessment and moving towards including that information in the development of the IFSP and the global outcomes. We've had a request to have an on-site child outcome summary rating training from Rocky Mountain Human Services. So that will be on October 26th from 1 to 3, and they have let us know that space is available if you have other providers or any of you would like to attend that training. Later on today, actually I think it's on the next slide. Contact Lanita if you're interested in registering or attending that training. There's 30 spots still available, so we have lots and lots of space for that training. The other thing I want to talk about is we're always very, very excited when any of you start to really taking the Go For It initiative in your own initiative and developing materials and moving forward with plans to make things work better in your community. So I'm going to ask Heather to share on the next slide a little bit about a resource that's come out of StarPoint. It's called the Go For It vocabulary. So this came out, they actually developed this after the 2-day community mapping and action planning meeting, and it was developed by Callie Walking, who's one of their providers, and she just thought it would be helpful to always be able to remember the Go For It vocabulary, to think about what we were saying and move forward into using the new global outcomes language. I'm going to ask Heather to talk a little bit about this. Heather, are you on the call?
I am.
Okay. Would you tell us a little bit about how you and Callie worked on this?
Well, actually, Callie is one of our speech therapists, and she is a go-getter. And she really is one who likes side-by-side lists. So we had made this part of our action plan, and within a week of the 2-day training, she had submitted the first draft of this and made some revisions based on some feedback from me, and then we shared it with Laura and Lanita and Wayla, and they suggested another alteration. And so it's kind of a work in progress. I wouldn't say we've addressed absolutely everything, but we thought, Callie and our team really thought these were the ones that were going to take the most practice to change the way we interacted and spoke with families and with other team members.
Will you just read through it for us, Heather?
Sure.
For people that can't see it well on the screen.
Yeah. So for the what we say now, we've used the language as age appropriate, and what we will say will be age expected. And instead of using the word delay, this is especially on pages 7 and 8 of the IFSP, the no delay, mild delay, significant delay, we'll be referencing the child outcome summary language, all the skills expected, many age-expected skills, some early skills, etc. Instead of goals, we'll be saying outcomes. And ever since we finished our universal training earlier this week, that's been a practice point we've been trying to implement in our conversations with one another. And instead of the 3 child outcomes that previously were part of the COSEF, we're going to refer to those as global outcomes. And instead of what we have called the COSEF, the Child Outcome Summary Form, we're going to be referring to the COS within the Global Outcomes page.
Thank you, Heather. We were very excited to see this resource. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Yes, one of the things we were joking about yesterday was that maybe in terms of getting to use the word outcomes more, that we'd have a nickel jar. And if someone says goals, they have to contribute, and at the end of the year, we'd have a big party.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. You probably would have some party funds there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring the attention back to what you said earlier. So when you're saying goals, you're really talking about that moving towards using the IFSP outcomes and differentiating those between the global outcomes and the individualized IFSP outcomes.
Yes.
And Heather, when Laura and I were out there visiting for the universal training, we had a question about the differences between, well, why do we say IFSP outcomes instead of goals? Because goals is easier. Most parents know what that means. And Laura had a really good explanation of why we think about these as IFSP outcomes instead of goals. And Laura, do you want to just, in a nutshell, explain the thinking behind that?
Sure. So outcomes, the word outcomes was used very deliberately when the Part C provisions or the early intervention provisions were put into the law. And that was really a way to distinguish what we're working on with children and families in early intervention from the more child-specific kinds of goals that are implemented through IDEA under the special education programs in the school district. And it's very fascinating when these rules are being developed to read the comments and the discussion that goes into forming these words and definitions. And the thought behind using outcomes instead of goals is that it was felt that the word goal was much more child-specific. It was really around a skill the child was going to do, a skill the child was going to grow. Whereas outcomes really brings in the participation piece that we talk about so much in early intervention. An outcome is really looking at something within the family's life and how that's going to change, including the child's participation within that routine. So it denotes a broader concept, a broader way of thinking than just a goal. Because really an outcome can have many different sub-activities underneath it that could be thought about as small goals in their own right. But we're all working together to use those smaller steps to make a difference in the child's life within the larger holistic outcome.
So,
go ahead, Heather.
So I was actually going to give an example that yesterday we had our whole team in the office, and I was typing an IFSP that we had done before the universal training that our occupational therapist had given us an outcome that really was a goal. And as I was typing it up, it occurred to me that it was really going to be simple. And so I had her come over and sit with me, and we changed from this is an infant, from the child turning his head fully in both directions to turning his head fully in both directions to track a person moving across his line of vision during playtime at home.
And did you get that information from the family assessment?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that example, Heather. That's great.
Right. So
the OT was very pleased that she still had her goal, but it was in a context and an outcome.
Very sneaky of you, Heather.
Fantastic. So this resource, StarPoint has kindly agreed to share, and so this will be available to you, and we'll send it out after the call, and we'll post it on the Padlet as well, because you might want to add some more vocabulary and share that out with the group as well. So thank you so much, Heather, and Allie as well. So she couldn't be on the call today. Okay, so this particular update is specific to Cohort 1, but we'd like Cohort 2 to listen, because moving forward, when you're moving into self-assessment, this is something you can have in the back of your mind. And I know from conversations that we're having with folks in Cohort 2 that you're already thinking about self-assessment and what gains and improvements can be made to the IFSP process. So right now, the IFSP self-assessment, the QIO, as we're referring it to, the intent behind it is to collect information for the state systemic improvement plan because we want to measure if what we're doing is making a difference in our state. And we also want to support your programs in being able to provide real-time feedback, training, technical assistance as you're looking at IFSPs and seeing the areas that are going well and the areas that need support. And so this tool is really going to help you in doing that. And it also provides us a way to be accountable to our leadership here at the state regarding the quality of the IFSPs because they're really interested in that. They really believe that that's what's going to make a difference for children's progress. So we did roll out the use of the tool with Cohort 1. You guys practiced it, you tried it, and then Amanda, Laura, Wayla, and myself engaged in some verification to see if we came up with the same ratings. And right now we are in the process of making modifications to the tool. Amanda is hard at work with that. Because we really want that to be as user-friendly and as clear as possible so that it's not too laborious to fill this out. And so it's really a feedback loop right now, which is what Go For It is all about, is trial and error, see what's working. And so initially we had said October 10th, which has passed, that we would begin to use this in an ongoing way. So as you know, everyone in Cohort 1 will be having individual TA calls with Amanda and the Program Initiatives Unit to go through the IFSPs that we identified and verified, and then we will move forward in rolling this out for you. So we're a ways away yet from being able to use this in an ongoing way because we just want it to be as user-friendly as possible. So any questions related to the self-assessment tool?
Or anything up to this point?
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Wayla to cull some wisdom from Cohort 1.
So it's really funny that every time Juanita and Laura were speaking, it says that Wayla is speaking. So I'm doing some little ventriloquism here.
She's really good. She's practicing for Halloween.
So we just want to hear from Cohort 1. We asked you this question ahead of time, and hopefully you've been thinking about this. When you're thinking back on having completed your universal training, and then you were preparing for your implementation, we were wondering what are some of the steps that really helped your community be able to implement Go For It successfully?
Particularly after you received the training, because you've talked to us a lot about kind of your preparation steps earlier, but I'd like to know what was important after we had come out and done the training, moving forward from that.
And these are some of the things that you can think about when you're doing that. What would you have done differently? What went well? How did you communicate? So if you want to fold in some of those things with what you're saying. So let's start. Can we start with you, Colleen, from Imagine?
Yep, you sure can. I think after we finished the training, probably the three most important things we did once we resolved what our process would look like was, one, we met individually with each of our school districts to kind of find out what would work for them, what wouldn't work for them, and ended up with different processes for each school district based upon what they needed. And ongoing, we keep tweaking the processes, but that seems to be going well. I also created a most likely provider training, and I had like a week of binge training where I'd have early morning sessions, daytime sessions, evening sessions to try to capture as many providers as we could to really have that one-on-one time where I could discuss a new process. We could have some meaningful engagement about what it looks like to have meaningful family-friendly IFSP goals. And so it was intense.
Or outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Or IFSP outcomes, yeah.
That's a nickel. Nickel jar.
We also looked at, we needed to create some internal paperwork documents to give to families when they came in to talk about the new process. We created a document around what the global outcomes mean for families, and we have folders for our families since we don't come to the IFSP meetings, so creating the documents that would go into that.
And so let me just clarify, Colleen, you do go to the IFSP meetings, you just don't go to the evaluations, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. That's wonderful. Anything else?
No, that was about it.
Okay, perfect.
So can I ask you just a follow-up question, Colleen? So when you said you created folders, are those folders that the evaluation team members give to families?
Correct. So after the assessment, we've actually got two different colors. We've got a green go and a teal no-go. Of course, they can't declare eligibility, but we want no matter what our families to receive resources. And basically, we've got a letter saying regardless, your service coordinator is going to call you. We also have our phone number for our intake person. We didn't want any family left behind in case someone didn't get back to them, so they had a number to call in case someone didn't get back to them. And then just some child resources. We've got, like, for those kiddos who are eligible, we have a SAFER in there in case people want to start working on them. And then also the global outcomes worksheet that we received in the universal training is in there just in case families want to get working on something before we set up that first meeting.
Great.
Great. How about Kelly? Can we go to you next from North Metro?
Hi there. I guess it's a lot of similarities to what Colleen had mentioned. We just kind of started meeting right away with our implementation team and talking about what information we felt like we needed to get out there and how we could kind of condense the training to get the information out to our providers. I think we did 9 provider trainings. We did some here at North Metro, and then we went on some field trips to see some of our larger provider agencies so that we could really get as much out to them in some of their, like, normal meetings. So if we had a large provider agency that had a normal meeting going on a Thursday at 4 o'clock, that's what we did. We met them at their agency and got all the information to them. And then we obviously continued to meet as our early implementation team monthly to do check-ins and follow up and kind of see where we were at. We chose, I think, 10 to 12 referrals to pilot. So to kind of start, we didn't go all in. We picked some referrals and just tried it and to see how things were going and get feedback from the child find team and the service coordinator, providers, and that sort of thing.
Great.
Kelly, I really like a couple points you made around, really trying to meet, like, some of your agencies where they were with their regular meeting times and being flexible about that, because I think for some of our partners, that's really what's necessary is we might not be able to get them to the table, but we'll be welcome at theirs. So for Cohort 2, really thinking about that creatively. And the other piece you mentioned is that you were having your ongoing implementation team meetings, and I really want to encourage Cohort 2 to not lose momentum with that because the time will get away from you. And so to meet as quickly as you can to start really thinking about, okay, how are we going to roll this out now? Is going to be really critical. So thank you for bringing up those points, Kelly.
Sure, thanks.
Thank you. How about Sarah Brotherson? Are you on the phone from Mountain Valley?
I am. And I would probably just have to say that most of what we've done is similar to Colleen and Kelly. So we met with our school districts after our training and updated MOUs to reflect the changes that we had agreed upon during our meetings with the state and the universal trainings as to what our new process would look like. We also developed a new intake form that included information that would be needed for Child Find and us to help alleviate some paperwork and make sure we were capturing everything that everyone needed. And then we have a service coordinator who has developed a new service coordinator training and is still in the process of developing our provider training to help just get everyone on the same page.
Great, thank you. We noted here about updating your MOUs, so that's also something for Cohort 2 to think about as you're moving forward with this process, something that you can do as a part of your work on this.
Yeah, Sarah, I really like the way you're talking about changing some things. I know you made some internal staff structural changes too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I like the fact that you're thinking about how you can provide information to your service coordinators and your providers on an ongoing basis.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you, Sarah.
Yep, thank
Sharon.
you.
Sharon, how about you from Inspiration Field?
Hi. I think we did a lot of similar things, just on a much smaller scale because of our size. So we're fortunate in both of the BOCES that we work with are in Go For It communities. They were on implementation teams, so they went through the universal training and were kind of on board right from the beginning. They also, many of them are providers, so in that sense we were really lucky that they were sort of in on the ground floor of everything that we've done. We started by looking at the initial contact with families and infusing the Go For It language into that right from the beginning. We've provided training materials, some of the universal training materials with the home health agency that we work with, and they've committed to review that with at their I think they do quarterly training meetings and just ongoing conversations with providers with using that Go For It language and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what we've done.
Great. Thank you. How are you still working as the sole service coordinator there, Sharon?
Yes, I am. We're in survival mode right now.
Okay. All right. We're thinking about you. All right. Jamie, are you on the call from Southern? Okay. So
we'll give you a minute, Jamie, and because we know you were on.
Saw your name.
You were there. I hope that you didn't get lost when we had our technical difficulties.
Yeah, I don't see her anymore.
Okay, we'll move on.
All right. So just a final thought. Was there, from any of you that just shared, was there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
This is Colleen. One thing I think Cohort 2 should be grateful for is the QIO actually coming out and being implemented. I think as we look at how we created our systems, having that ahead of time would have made a difference. And now we're kind of having to backpedal a little bit and say, okay, if the family assessment is a linchpin upon which everything really should be written, then we're kind of having to say, okay, how can we make sure we do more of a quality family assessment? So I think having that as kind of the tool, like this is what we're going to be evaluated as, has made us say, okay, we need to step back, we need to breathe a little bit and figure out how to make that more of a quality IFSP than we have been.
I think we would all echo that. I think we wish we would have had that tool prior to rollout for Cohort 1 as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Colleen. Anyone else? Okay, so does anybody from Cohort 2 have questions for any of these that have told you what they were doing? Now's your chance.
This is Beth.
Hi, Beth.
Hi. For those of you guys who made materials for your families, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share some of that. I didn't see it on the Padlet, but I could have missed it. Just for a frame of reference so that I maybe don't have to do that all from scratch. Can build on what you've already done.
So let me put that back too. Did anyone develop specific materials, or are you using materials that were already provided to you as resources?
At Imagine we did, and I'll email those to you, or I can put them someplace.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just emailing them out to us, would you be comfortable with us putting them on the Padlet?
Perfect.
Okay.
We can put them on both Padlets, both for Cohort 1 and 2.
Thanks, Colleen.
Thank you. Good question, Beth. Anything else? Oh, Kelly says they're using materials already provided.
Okay.
All right. So next then we're just going to check in with everyone. We want to see what's new, how are things going. So let's see. These are some questions that you can think about as you're doing that community sharing. Maybe some things that you're surprised by going through this process, something you found out, something you realized. I think we did hear that a little bit from Colleen about the quality and something that you learned. So maybe can we start with Sharon? These are in no particular order, just like on Dancing with the Stars. So I'm just calling them out. So how about Sharon? Would you share with us what you think?
Oh boy. I think I was surprised that our providers were as supportive as they were. There was not a lot of kickback from them. I think they like the new process. So I think that was the biggest thing I was surprised at.
Great. Thank you. Well, that was good news. That's awesome.
Yay.
What about Jamie? Are you on? No.
I think she got cut off somehow.
How about Kelly from North Metro?
I am surprised it's been a year already. We did our universal training back in November of last year. So, yeah, it's gone by really fast, and I think we're just, I don't know, at this point surprised, maybe not surprised, but how much providers are just really engaged and love the process and feel so much better about starting with families and having that initial conversation with families because they're a part of the IFSP development. So that's been
silent
really
cheers going on over here.
We're doing our happy dance for that.
Okay, good. I think though that we've learned that, and you guys have already touched on this. I mean, we've definitely learned that we need some more technical assistance around family assessment, and we've also learned that the training pieces of it. I mean, we did all those initial trainings at the beginning and don't really end. We need to keep it going because we always have new providers and new providers coming on to different agencies. So we need to be prepared to always be able to give them that information.
Great. That's really great feedback, Kelly. How about Sarah from Mountain Valley?
Hi. I was having similar thoughts to Kelly in that I think it's been a whole year already, which is mind-blowing in some ways, but I also feel like we've kind of hit the point where we need some refreshers and some reminders and some just checking in with, service coordinators and providers and making sure we're all still on the same track.
Great. How about, sorry, I lost my little page. How about Beth at Rocky Mountain Human Services?
Well, I'm surprised that I don't really know. I'm concerned. One, that Lenita told me I needed to find a new venue for my universal training. That's sad for me. But I don't know. I think that I feel like I still have a lot to figure out after the universal training.
Right.
And to think
kind of
that,
waiting. Yeah.
Pardon?
Kind of waiting for that to happen so that you know what you don't know, right?
Right. I am still kind of waiting for that to happen. I mean, we're still, you know, my implementation team is meeting, but right now I feel a little, I mean, we have things to talk about and areas to focus on, but we don't have quite as much to do as we did right after our 2-day visit or right at the beginning when we were like, let's all orient to what global outcomes are. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, just note to self, if you haven't had your universal training yet, which that would be also in vision, we need tables. Tables are important. It seems like a small detail, but we need for participants to be able to work in groups and write on tables. So,
you know how we made all the participants mix up and work together as IFSP groups in the IFSP training? Well, it's that way again.
Yeah. So tables are good.
Okay, StarPoint. How about you, Heather?
I was surprised, someone else mentioned, that our providers were as enthusiastic. I had expected a little more pushback before our universal training. I think we found out that having a parent participate as part of our implementation team really added a lot. She just had great input.
She was awesome.
She really was. And, you know, I realized that we have a lot more work ahead of us and that we're going to have to figure out a way. We were very lucky because all of our providers, except for just a very few, were at the training. So that was really helpful, and realized how lucky we were to be able to have that. And I learned that we still have a lot to learn and work on, and revising MOUs is going to be one of our big things.
Great. Thank you, Heather. How about Blue Sky? Is it Melinda? Is anyone from Blue Sky on today? No? Okay, how about Pat at Community Connections? What about you?
I was just asking my coworkers here, what should I say, because I feel like we're kind of still in the process. We've done the universal training, but we don't have, all of our providers have not been trained and all of our service coordinators have not been trained. So we're not to the point where we can think about implementing, but we are trying to put together another training for next week and get the folks on board that weren't able to attend the first one. I guess something that surprised me was that our community partners were actually showed up to the universal training. We had somebody from Head Start there, and the BOCES. There was somebody from BOCES, and I was really happy that they had enough interest in early intervention to show up for a fairly long day of training. So
they were really engaged too. It was great.
Yeah. So that was sort of a surprise to me. I thought I would have a hard time putting together a committee, and I had people, volunteer pretty readily. So that was a happy surprise for me. And I think in a couple of weeks when we have everybody trained and start thinking about when we're going to implement, I might have a little bit more input.
Great. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, how about, I see Monica, are you on,
Yeah,
or
Jenny and I are here.
Hi,
We
Jenny.
both.
Monica and Jenny. So what about you guys?
I think that we are realizing that this is harder than we thought. And one of the bigger, I guess, the challenges that we're having is that our work doesn't stop. So when we're trying to figure out how to change things or implement things or even look at our process, you know, it's not like we have an end point where we can just stop, reorganize, and start again, you know. So that's just really hard for us right now, I think, to try and figure out how we're going to, you know, just do it. So we're in the middle of doing some time studies and things right now to look at what we're currently doing. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Monica, and I really do like that you mentioned the time studies. I know we talked about those in all of our two-day community mapping and action planning meetings because it really does help to see where you're spending your time before you move into implementing the new process. It can give you really valuable information when you're trying to change things a bit.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Monica. How about TRE? Julie, are you on?
I am, yes. So our universal training isn't for a couple more weeks, but a couple things that, well, one thing that I guess that surprised me was how much support from the providers there was to join the assessment and the IFSP as one meeting. And I expected more pushback from the providers, and I think got a little more poo-pooing from the service coordinators. So that was
surprising to me too.
That was surprising. And through this process, just finding out, you know, I knew my portion of kind of what was happening in the process, but just finding out every little more detail from beginning to end of what happened, just through the IFSP process has been interesting to me so far.
Great. Thank you, Julie. What about Blue Peaks? Is there anyone, Tracy or Pat? No? And then how about, last but not least, how about Colleen from Imagine?
Yeah, I think it's kind of been all covered. As I said, right now, quality is our big push, so.
Great. Thank you, Colleen.
And no one has joined that we missed anywhere along the line? Anyone from Blue Sky? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we just wanted to briefly talk about the 45-day timeline because that is something that we have heard is a potential concern with implementing Go For It, and we have great news because we did have Ashley run some data, and we just wanted to put this up. This is data for Cohort One, and this is about the 45-day timeline, and we can share program-specific information with you individually so you can see exactly how your CCB is doing, and we're going to be patient with Ashley because she has a lot of competing asks right now, but she did put this together, and you can see for the timeline from September 2015 when the unicorn went live until September 2016 that nobody is missing the 45-day timeline. So implementing Go For It, breaking it into 2 meetings, overall we're doing really, really well with that. And you can see at the bottom of the screen we've got 300 and so we have a total of, you know, basically 1,500 IFSPs for Go For It communities in this time period. 314 of those were due or late due to family reason, and 53 to system, with one where it wasn't indicated, which it was. So it's not that we aren't having some late IFSPs, due to system reason, but overall, people are still making that 45 days. So I thought this was really important to share, and I wanted to encourage you around this, because we know that has been a struggle, and just thinking about breaking it into the 2 days, 2 meetings, what that looks like. So we're going to be talking about this some more and talking about it with you individually, but I did just want to share this. Okay, so upcoming dates. So as I said, we have the self-assessment QIOTA, and these are the dates. So Kelly will be talking with you later today. And the other 4 CCBs, you can see here we have time scheduled for everyone to go over IFSPs that have been assessed. So we're looking forward to getting on the same page there. Rocky Mountain Human Services, that Child Outcome Summary Rating Training is next week. Again, I'm sorry for the short notice, but we are inviting those that are interested to attend. Just let me know. It's from 1 to 3 at Rocky Mountain Human Services. CRE, we're going to come and see you on November 8th. And then the next community of practice call, which is for Cohort 2 only, is November 17th. And then both cohorts, we're going to come together again on December 15th. And then Rocky Mountain Human Services, at the beginning of the new year, will have their universal training, hopefully in a venue with tables. We will help you find that. And Envision on February 9th. So, thank you for joining us today. We want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions or provide any comments for our last 6 minutes of the call. Does anyone have any feedback or questions?
This is Beth. I have one more question.
Great.
What is kind of the amount of time that people have between the universal training and implementation? You guys have some ballparks for that? Cohort 1?
Hi, this is Kelly at North Metro Best. We had our universal training in November, and we started piloting like the first, I would say, like 10 to 12 in January. And main reason was because we were right up against the holidays, and so we knew that Child Find would have limited availability anyway. So we started January 1, so that was, about a month or so, because I think our training was in late November.
And you don't need to wait to think about how you're going to roll it out until after the universal training. You can have those conversations with your implementation team, really think through what makes sense, so you can really start that process even prior to the universal training as well.
Yeah, this is Colleen.
Go ahead.
We had our training, we were the last group, so we must have been later in November, but we already kind of set up our timeline that January 11th we were going to go live with everyone we worked with Universe.
Wow.
It was November 30th. I remember it well on a snowy day driving up there. Somebody else from Cohort 1?
This is Sarah at Mountain Valley. We did the same. We were also, I think, sometime in November and waited until the first of the year and rolled out with all 6 school districts at the same time.
Yeah, I think you rolled out on the 11th, if I remember correctly.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you.
So really, it takes a little while to kind of get everything in order, get folks trained, communicate that you're going to roll out and say, okay, this is our go live day. This is when we're going to do it. So it really, for most folks, it takes a month or so to really be ready to do that. I think Inspiration Field, didn't you guys wake up the next morning from universal training and roll it out? Sharon, are you still on the call? Yeah, she may have had to hang up, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think everybody pretty much was at their universal training, and so they just pretty much said, okay, we're going to start tomorrow. So that's what they did.
Southern did the same. They started with their new referrals because in the smaller communities, of course, they did really have everyone that was going to be involved in those new referrals at the training.
Okay, other questions, comments? Great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today, and let's just keep in touch, keep asking each other questions, and posting on the Padlet. We will be sending out this Go For It vocabulary resource and posting it on the Padlet as well. So thanks again, StarPoint. And we will talk to some of you in November and the rest of you in December. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. It's always wonderful to talk.
Thank you. It was great to have you guys here this week.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's fun for us, too.